Hello and welcome back to the Game Room. You know what I love? Video games. You know what I love? Talking about games. And it seems like a lot of people these days who cover games seem to hate them. Or at least the people who play them. Well, that's not me, and that's not the 5,166 of you beautiful people checking out this video here today. We are back to the Switch. We got a bunch of fun titles this week, most of which I had to open up for this video, so that's pretty cool. And just thank you guys again. I know the PS4 videos don't do as well as some of the other ones, but thank you guys for checking it out. It's one of those weird things where as the week progressed, it actually got more views, which typically doesn't happen. So thank you guys to the new subs. Welcome to all the continued subs. Let's keep rolling. So I think this is the 16th time. Let's check out some Switch games. There's a lot of games out there, some of which you've never even heard of. That's where I come in. My name's Luke. I've been playing games since the age of 2, and I have no life.
This is my game room.
Alright, so the first game we're going to talk about today is one that I am very happy I picked up. In fact, after playing through all of these games, I actually put this one back in the Switch, and I'm probably about halfway through the game, which it's surprisingly long. I would not think it would be this long. And that game is Midnight Fight Express. So I want to say this was a game I saw either Legally Insane Gamer recommend or something like that. It is a limited run release, but it is just stupid fun. There's a storyline. I'll be honest with you guys, I just skipped all the story and I thought the game was a lot better because of it. In it, you control in a sort of isometric 2.5D art style. It reminds me a little bit of Fight in Tight Spaces or something of that ilk in the way it looks. And as you get further in the game, you will unlock and get weapons in the area that will dismember opponents, which is always fun. There is a progression system where you can get finishers, grapples, all these other things, different types of secondary bullets you can unlock. And it's just a fun beat 'em up. There's even a section where you go into a game studio and they have everyone dressed up like furries and Left Shark and all of that, and you're having a pillow fight, and there's Nerf guns, and it's good tongue-in-cheek fun. The guys from, I think it's Hotline Miami, make a cameo in it, so I'm wondering, I think this is made by those people, and it's just really good, dumb fun. The game dev area even reminded me a little bit of Shadowrun on the Super Nintendo. There's this area where you're going up into a building, and I don't know, I really enjoyed it. I thought the combat was tight, reminded me a little bit of that Arkham Asylum kind of combo-based combat, but not just overburdened with options. Really, you have one punch, you can grapple, you can pick up items and throw them, and it just leads to these really intense fights, almost like you're in an action game, or almost like that game Fights in Tight Spaces, but instead you are controlling the action. Highly recommend it. One of the best games, in my opinion, that I've discovered doing this, just for dumb fun. There is a story, but I skipped all of it just because I could care less. And I find that as I'm getting older, skipping the story makes me enjoy games more because I waste less time reading and not playing, which is something I don't mind doing in RPGs. I like reading text and things like that in those. But I tell you, in action games, things like that, platformers, let me get to the gameplay. That's why I'm here. All right, moving on from that. There's a game I picked up expressly because it's narrated by Sean Bean. I don't know how many of you guys know about the Dyatlov Pass incident, but it's fascinating. It's about 9 campers in Russia. This was during the Cold War. There actually was 10, but one of them got sick and went back, and the 9 of them just went missing. And then when they found their bodies, it just made no sense. Well, there's a game that more or less explores the aftermath of that. You kind of play sort of an investigator going in and checking it out. And it wasn't released here in the West on physical, well, at least not in America. And that game is Kholat, narrated by Sean Bean. It is very much a walking simulator, very cerebral type game, but just fascinating subject matter, and one of those things that I wanted to pick it up just for that alone. I love the story of I think it's the outlive pass. Maybe it's something, I don't know. There's a lot of these things, but more or less what happens is like their tents showed them ripping their way out of it. It showed that some of the people who had passed away looked like they'd been hit by essentially a freight train. Socks were missing. People were up a tree. Like it made no sense. And yes, some of it you can write off to them having maybe hypothermia, but most of it you cannot. It's one of the big famous stories as far as the unexplained phenomenon type thing. So yeah, if you're interested in a game that kind of takes place using all that, I mean, obviously you don't get to the bottom of it in this, but it's just fascinating. It's got a PAL release, comes with this silk case. I also know it was released, I want to say on PS4, but something to grab, and it was still pretty pricey, like $40, $50 when I picked it up new. But yeah, that's one I definitely wanted in the collection, if not just to support my main man, Sean Bean. Okay, another one that I picked up on a recommendation from Into the Void. I think he's a Brazilian YouTuber. So he mentioned this game that was not released physically here in the West, but did have a PAL release, and it's sort of a Metroidvania, almost looks like a Hollow Knight type game, but this one takes place completely underwater, and that is Pronty. And the underwater thing, it was something that really hooked onto me. And now putting it in and playing it, you're playing like these little mermaid people. And yes, you know what? On the surface, this normally wouldn't be a game I would have picked up. But being underwater, actually playing it, it reminds me a lot of Ori and the Blind Forest. And another game that I did not care for, which was Owlboy. But something about this just clicked with me. I enjoyed it. I liked the underwater setting. I didn't play a super far amount into it, obviously, but it felt great. If this is something that's interesting to you, this is one I would grab. Like I said, PAL release, I think it was like $30, $40, something like that, but really cool, tight controls. At least with the initial combat, you would be able to float around and then direct this almost this spearfish thing that's a robot, and it would do the attacking for you. So you would send it off and it would go off and then come back, and then you could recall it. So not like God of War combat, but still a cool combat loop, especially something for how you're going to make something underwater work where you just have free range to go everywhere. And I think they handled it well there. It gives you sort of a twin stick feel with the combat, and I'm looking forward to checking out more of it. All right, moving on from that, this is a game that I picked up, I want to say just as a random blind buy on Amazon many, many years ago. I'm not quite sure what it was. It probably honestly was the cover, because it did evoke that 8-bit Zelda type feel. And that game is Aggelos. Now, this is the PAL release. I think there's an NTSC release as well. And when I looked at this, I did not read the reviews. It did not get great reviews from what I saw. I want to say it was like $20, $15. And this, I got this maybe in 2020, something like that. I didn't even know I bought a PAL version. Like, this was before I realized Amazon would allow you to buy PAL games. I just thought it was the release, and probably that's why it was so cheap. But popping it in, it is a hybrid of the kind of the Wonder Boy series mixed with Legend of Zelda 2, which for me, hell yeah. The art style really evokes Zelda 2, the backgrounds, the bricks, the way you kind of get items, and I actually really, really enjoyed this. I could see myself getting down, beating this thing, really having a fun time with it. Why it's a little bit more Monster Boy is because there was no overworld, so it seemed like the whole world was persistent, and just a lot of fun, really a lot of fun going through it. Had a nice feel with the combat, the exploration. There's no worry about drowning because you can just go into the water. And something that, once again, I was pleasantly surprised. A lot of these games I've picked up and played this week, I've had in my collection for quite some time. I just haven't, like I said, every single game I've showed you already, I opened for this video. And so getting in there and trying it, and Aggelos more than any of them was one of the ones where I was like, okay, cool, this one's a lot of fun. If it was between that and Midnight Express, probably as far as the ones I enjoyed the most. So if that looks interesting to you, it's still a pretty cheap game. It's interesting out there. It's on other systems too. I think I've seen it on PS5. But yeah, that's one to definitely check out. All right, let's break the trend of games that I did not open for this video, and that would be Tactics Ogre Reborn. Reborn. So the reason I didn't open this is I've actually already beaten the original Super Nintendo version of this. However, they make so many improvements that are based, I want to say, on either the PS1 or the PSP remake of this game. And it's something I really should check out because I played, essentially the Super Famicom version got a ROM hack where they translated it, and I played that, but in that game it was really slow. The best way to level your team was actually to have almost a scrimmage between your own team where you could then level up against each other and just wail on each other the whole time, because in this game there's permadeath. So if you lose a unit in the field, they're gone forever. As well as I don't think there was a way to just chain grind your guys without going to a story-based mission, unlike Final Fantasy Tactics, which was the game that was made that, kind of, anyways. Final Fantasy Tactics Ogre Reborn, phenomenal story, very grounded, unlike Final Fantasy Tactics where it goes off into a supernatural bent. This one very much is a political thriller. If you've played Triangle Strategy, this game is very much in that vein where warring factions, and depending on how you play this game, you will unlock a different ending as well as different endings for the various different characters. I think there's a lawful ending, chaotic ending, and it's not always the one you think. So if you, for instance, are given an order to go and do something, and that thing that you're going to do does not seem right, by not doing it, you actually are not doing the lawful ending. So it's things like that. And it's a really, really cool story. It's a fun game. It's sort of the progenitor to Final Fantasy Tactics. Looks the same, has the same header, UI, all that kind of stuff. So if you like that look of the game, if you like that feel, if you've played Final Fantasy Tactics and you want something else that is reminiscent of that, this is one to grab. And definitely on the Switch, on the PS5, this is something that's, I think it came out in 2020 or 2021, maybe 22, I don't know. It came out and had little fanfare. People were excited for it. It didn't quite get that HD 2D coat of paint, which I wish it had, but it does look really nice, and I'm looking forward to checking it out. And that's probably the basis where they took the Final Fantasy Tactics engine, using that one since they lost the source code. But anyways, that is one to grab. All right, so I'm going to break my rule a little bit here. Normally I'm telling you to pick up these games. In this case, I'm telling you to stay the hell away from this game, but because I have it in my collection, I figure why not show it off. That is Contra Rogue Corps. Never have I been more disappointed with a Contra game, which is something that Contra fans have said a lot, because it was like that on the PS1 era, it was like that now. I've heard Operation Galuga, which is a remake of the first Contra, was not that great. I don't have it. That's one of the ones I wish I'd picked up, but at the time I just couldn't financially do it. But yes, Rogue Corps completely throws the Contra formula out. It's more of a twin-stick shooter that's highly edgy, like it's made by 12-year-olds or 18-year-olds thinking they're trying to be cool. They're just dropping profanities left and right in the opening cutscene, and it just got to the point of like, okay, guys, I don't know. It's not that I'm a prude or anything like that, but at least make it earned a little bit. Like, this just seemed like you were trying to throw Toot at the wall and see if it stuck. Going through the actual first couple of levels, I wanted to check out immediately. This was not my Contra. It had some of the guns and all that, but basically imagine Konami just took the name Contra and slapped it onto anything that was more or less just a cash grab, and I could not stand this game. I have not played it since then. I feel like I've gotten more time talking about how much I dislike it than I actually did playing it. But if you guys think this looks good, or if you want to try it, I mean, by all means, I'm warning you. Maybe if you find it for $5, check it out. But it's more or less a Contra that tries to be more like the PS1 era Contras, or say like a Super Smash TV, that kind of thing. And it's just not fun. I didn't really enjoy it. Play Blazing Chrome, a much better Contra game. Even the new one that came out at least looks like Contra. This one just doesn't make sense to me. I don't know what the hell they were thinking. All right, and this is one that I've had in the collection for quite some time. I'm always on the lookout for XCOM-like games, so a turn-based tactical type XCOM game. And this one came out, and I think it was published by Limited Run, but I don't think it's one of their numbered releases. And I snagged it when it was on Amazon. The art style is very interesting, but the subject matter is a little out there for myself, to be honest. And that game is Othercide. So in this, the entire thing is a stark black and white world with a little bit of hints of red in it. I believe you're playing as the mother, and then you have these daughters, and then angels, and it's just like like I said, I skipped the story on some of these things, so I didn't really garner that. But as far as the actual combat goes, it did seem pretty solid. It has a tracker on the bottom, and then you have an amount of ability skills you can use that you can use to move or you can use to attack. And unlike, say, in XCOM, when you attack and it ends your turn, in this game it seems like it allows you to attack as many times as you have the points for. Something that I saw in Aggelos War, of all things. So, did I like it? Yeah, I don't think I gave this one enough shot, but it's also one of those ones where it plays like an XCOM game, so I know that I'll eventually get down in the combat. But even in the tutorial level, the first one you play, I did not really enjoy the way that the enemies spawned and immediately got on top of me when they spawned, and that had me a little worried for the rest of the game, as well as it is pretty much like you gotta be in the zone to play this. This is not something like Midnight Fight Express where you can pick it up 5 beers in and just have a good time. This is one where it's like, okay, I actually gotta focus on this. It seemed good, seemed competent. I like the style. I love the visuals of it and all, but one of those ones where I need to give more time and dedication to it to actually understand what the hell's going on. All right, now, yet again, I'm going to break my rules, so I actually don't have a physical copy of this game, but it's one that I played a few years ago and I really enjoyed. So that game is Unpacking. So Unpacking and then Unsighted, I played, I want to say, the same 2-week span, and could not be more opposite from the other. Unpacking is a lot more like a game like an Untitled Goose Game. There's very little gameplay in it. There's very little story in it. More or less, you play as someone who has just moved into a new house, new building, new whatnot, and you are unpacking your personal belongings and finding a spot to put them at. Now, you can unpack wherever you want. Now, certain things have to go in certain areas, but for you, it can go on the bed, or it can go under the bed, or it can go on your desk, and so on and so forth. And it seems pretty basic, but as you're playing the game, you realize that you're playing as the same little girl who becomes a young woman, who becomes an adult woman, and then you are seeing the story of her life as she goes from in her parents' house to in a boyfriend's house to on her own. Like, so it's actually really cool. It was one of those things that it was a surprise as I was playing it, because the game where you're unpacking to tells the story. So you can see when she's a little girl, oh, they bought a bigger house, and now instead of having a bunk bed, you have your own room. And you're not just unpacking your room, you're unpacking the whole house. So it's very cool, the subtleties of the storytelling, where you can see why what happened in this woman's life happened when it did, and you can also see how, you know, a certain relationship may or may not work out, or how they finally found someone that would work. Like, it's cool. It's one of those things where it's gonna take like 2-3 hours. This is not a long game. I regret not picking up the physical copy when it was like $30 or so. I think it's still pretty similar to that, or I can find it on PS5. But a very interesting game, and one that, you know, like I said, I like a variety of games. I like it, you know, having a different type of feel. I wouldn't call this a cozy game, but obviously there's no stress in this. There's no way to lose. But it's fun. It's fun, and it's one of those things where, especially as a father now of a young little girl, you know, you look at old pictures from when she's 1 and she's 3 now, and it's hard to explain how it resonates with you. And then playing something like this where you can then emulate, oh, well, is this going to be her life someday, or this or that? Like, it's something that you can't, you know, you can't be present for. Is just it's a mind, you know, it's a mind thing, dude. It's weird. But anyways, yeah, that's one to definitely check out. Alright, so this one is not obscure. It's everywhere. It's had re-releases. There's so many DLCs for it. I'm still going to talk about it because it's one of my favorite Switch games, and that game is the infamous Dead Cells. And not infamous for what it did, infamous because it had that IGN person plagiarize someone's review, and that was fun. But yes, Dead Cells is probably my favorite roguelike game. It more or less killed my love of Rogue Legacy. After playing Dead Cells, it's hard for me to go back to Rogue Legacy because, in my opinion, Dead Cells does it so much better. Though, the one caveat I will have is that Dead Cells has been out for so long now that if you played it in 2018 when it came out and haven't played it since, pick it up because it is a completely different game now. They have rebalanced the weapons, rebalanced the game, added new areas. There's like 4 DLCs, including a Castlevania DLC now, which you can buy. You can buy the version that comes with that on it. I don't know if it has the other DLCs on it too, but I've bought all the damn things. And there are several different endings depending on if you can get up there with the different cells on, which makes the game so much infinitely harder. You can go through each level, and when you get an upgrade, you can pick either red, green, or purple. And it's just, it's one of those things where I kind of wish they'd made a sequel instead of rebalancing the game, because I don't know about you guys, but I really dislike that about modern games. I want to go back. It's kind of why classic WoW was so cool, is I want to play the original World of Warcraft, but I also want to play Burning Crusade. And that's why I have all these. Having all these games allows me to do that. And in a game like Dead Cells, when you used to be able to throw out 2 turrets, have them, and then have that clear the level for you, and then they rebalance it so where you can only have 1 item of 1 type, and then the item does nothing. It doesn't, you know, the rest of the game maybe performs better, or the swords perform better, but it's that kind of rebalancing act I don't like. And I'm a little worried when I see things from the Claire Obscure team about Expedition 33 that they're going to go in there and rebalance it, and then the game that I fell in love with on launch day may be a little different because, you know, even with this the Svendal thing, or going in and having loadouts, or this or that, I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic on that one. But Dead Cells, a lot of fun, really, really cool game where as you progress through the levels, you can go different routes, you unlock permanent upgrades like a double jump, or being able to, you know, it's been a while since I've done it. I can't remember what the exact upgrades were, but they allow you to go different routes, or like shoot up high into the sky and get into another area. And it's always hard. Like, I've managed to beat, I want to say, up to 3 cells or 4 cells. I'll be honest, I exploited the game. There's a way you can do that where if you can't like close the game outside of it, the hard save will pull you back to the beginning of that level, and because if you die, you go back to the beginning and you have to restart it. I like to call these games almost like modern arcade games because it's not necessarily a high score, but it's a run. So a lot of people dislike roguelikes because of that feeling, but I would say, do you dislike going and playing Space Invaders or Pac-Man or Donkey Kong? Because that's what these are. Instead of chasing a high score, you're trying to beat the game. You know, it reminds me of a modern NES game, like, oh, I'm going to beat Cobra Triangle, I'm going to beat TMNT, you know, and instead of having continues, you don't. And so I feel like if you kind of shift your perspective that way, and you don't like these type of games, maybe go into it thinking that way, and you might actually like it. All right, and then the last game we're going to talk about this week is one that is a remake of a Super Nintendo game that is very expensive, and I really want, but I just never have picked it up, and that is the Ninja Saviors Warriors, the Ninja Saviors Return of the Warriors. So in this game, I believe they added 2 additional characters that were not in the original, and this was actually originally an arcade game that had 3 different monitors that all fused together, because back in the 80s and 90s, arcade games were the cutting edge of gaming, so you would see a lot of cool things like that. But the Super Nintendo port was really, really good, and this one just kind of carries that over. You can play as 3 different robots initially. I played as the big bruiser robot, and I liked it. It's a side-scrolling beat-em-up, but there's no plane of up and down. So it's kind of like in Streets of Rage when you're on a bridge or on something where there's no way to go up and down. You're just fighting left and right. And I really enjoyed my time playing it. I can't remember if it's more than 1 player. Yeah, it's 1 or 2 players too. So that's very cool. One to highly, highly recommend. It was only about $30 or so when I picked it up. And if you're looking for another game, beat 'em ups, guys. Beat 'em ups are great games to play with people who are not great at games. It's like the reason why they were so popular at arcades. Same thing as fighting games. Like these things where you can just pick up, button mash, and do something. This is another one of those where you can do something. And I think I got to like stage 2 or 3 before I'm like, yeah, I've seen what I can in this. A lot of fun, really enjoyed it. Of the games I've seen that were remade from Super Nintendo games, like the Joe and Mac, like the Wild Guns, this one's probably my favorite one I've played so far. Though I will say I have other ones, like I haven't played the Pocky and Rocky one yet, or the Turrican one. But that is one. Highly, highly recommend grabbing that one. And wait, we have a bonus. So I actually, because I played it, want to talk a little bit about the new demo for the Adventures of Elliott, the Millennium Tales. So it's a new HD 2D game by Square Enix. And when I originally saw it, I thought, oh, cool, a Secret of Mana type game. That's not how it plays. It actually plays a lot more like a action-adventure Zelda style, or more likely the Quintet style. So think Soul Blazer, or Illusion of Gaia, or Terra Enigma. That's more or less what it plays like. Now, I've had some people say and complain that the art style looks identical to Octopath. I don't care. I actually prefer that. Octopath's art style is amazing, and I could play 500 games that look like this. And yes, you have companies out there that are emulating this style. I'm not on Steam. I'm not downloading those. I'm only picking up big releases, as well as, even if there are, I'm still here for it, especially because this is the one that was made by Square Enix. And I'm all for it. Loved playing it. Loved the idea and the ability to go through these Octopath type worlds, but have an action combat. You can have the ability to charge your weapon, which gives it the same look as when you did boost points in Octopath. And as I played throughout the game, I did upgrade my sword even more to then do a fourth one that gets to the blue light. There's a little fairy companion that's with you that allows you to unlock other abilities. So at the beginning, you have this ability to dash. Looks like, think of like Zelda's or Link to the Past dash boots. And then you also have the ability to do a warp, where it can warp you across chasms. You also can jump, but all in all, just here in the first demo, going through and getting to a dungeon, I think there's going to be a little bit of customization with the Magicite, where it allows you to have different Magicites in your bag that can affect how your character behaves. The boss fight we got through with the big frog thing was a lot of fun, as well as when you die, it gives you the option to resurrect yourself using health, which I don't know if that's going to be in the actual game, but I'm all for it. Really enjoyed it. I think this game, when I saw the direct where it talked about it, I was much more excited for Octopath Zero, but now after playing this demo, which I wasn't even originally going to play it, I'm all in. I think this is going to be a phenomenal game. I'm buying it day one, and I'll probably, like I do with all the damn HD 2D games, maybe I'll even go for the collector's edition. But that's my thoughts on the Adventures of Elliott. Well, let me know what you guys think. If you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend it. Even if you were gonna buy it, because I'm probably gonna buy it day one anyways, but it was a lot of fun. I thought it was cool, and I was surprised at how well the HD 2D style translated to a action adventure game. So I'm all for it. Well, anyways, that's what you get for this week, guys. As a reminder, thank you so much for being here, guys. I love doing these videos. I'm so glad to see them doing well. And we're climbing up there. Going to be hopefully at 5,200 subs pretty shortly. As a reminder, I release a new video every Tuesday. It's been so nice getting a hold of you. Take care.